Fret not, everybody. Bungie is actively hiring new roles for Marathon. Marathon Commerce and Events Art Lead. Marathon Gameplay Engineering Lead. Marathon Investment Engineering Lead. Marathon Activities Technical Designer, mid to senior. Marathon Principal Product Manager, Game Systems. Marathon Test Lead, Meta Gameplay Systems. Actually, a number of different positions there. Whoa, hold on. New roles, new friendships. Build the next great adventure. I'm not trying to rip on Bungie right now. Number 1, be bold. Number 2, the engines of friendship. Number 3, make magic. And then you can join them today. Okay. I mean, how do we feel about this? I'm about to sign up. Look, man. Let me just say this. Anybody here that wants to take a stab at these positions, now is your time. You can join Bungie today. And, you know, you could be a part of something potentially great. Then get laid off. Dude, hold on. We're going to get into gaming today. But hold on. Y'all know Laura Fryer right here? Laura Fryer made an entire video learning from layoffs. Oh, she's so good. Sony should hire her, like, immediately.
Layoffs used to be a last-ditch effort to save a studio. Game companies would find that they could no longer pay salary, and so they'd slim down their team and try to make it until they could find new financing. Now they seem to be a trend, they seem to be accelerating, and it's heartbreaking because there is a real human cost for doing layoffs. It's one of the most destructive things you can do to a team. And the worst part is that it doesn't have to be this way. If game leaders start managing their content production, their teams, and their costs, the industry could return.
Oh my God, dude. Look, I don't I was about to be like, Laura, what conference is this? What Hub doing in the background?
Their teams, and their costs, the industry could return to a stable place.
Got a sick mind, Cross. Like, you fuckers didn't think it either. All right. You fuckers didn't think it either.
Place where layoffs are the exception, not the rule. For context, it helps if you understand a little bit about the stages of development to understand what one of the key problems is here. Simply put, there are 3 phases of production. The first is pre-production. This is where you're figuring out what the game is. You have ideas and you're trying to translate them into plans that can be built. You need to be small and agile. You can't have a large team working on the game during pre-production. You can't, because it slows you down too much.
Now I'm in production. We'll need to double up the staff of this company within the next 12 months to be able to make a game of this size.
Once you move into production, you need a lot more people.
Les, this is the stage that I'm in all the time. Les, when I call you in the middle of the night and tell you what kind of game I'm going to make, that is your opportunity to get the right people to start making the game. I'm not just fucking talking from my health here, okay? Find the right people, start doing the things that I say that we should be doing.
This is where all the artists and designers join the team full-time and start cranking out content. It's easy for things to go off track because communication has to scale and it's a long phase of development. Eventually, you get through, almost all of the code is done, almost all of the content, and guess what? It's time to slim the team down again.
At the end of every production, they draw on a whiteboard a plane that's on fire, and then the analogy is you've got to land, right? Like,
when you're shipping and finalizing a build, pushing it out is very difficult. It's easy to break things, so you don't want a lot of people touching the code. You lock it down and only a small number of people make changes.
you've got to eventually get light and land that sucker.
And this is one of the age-old problems in game development, and it's gotten worse because the teams have gotten big. What do you do with all of these people that you no longer need on the product at the end and beginning of the game? During the ship phase, most of the team rolls off, and in the short term, they typically rest, they take some time off, they come into the office a little later and leave a little earlier. But that downtime doesn't last forever. Soon the team is eager to get back to creating. Talented artists want to make art. They don't want to hang out in the office all day doing nothing. When you ship, it's a perfect time for your competitors to steal your best artists, and they will. Passionate creators need to create, so one option companies take is to have everyone work on downloadable content. The team that is rolled off the game can work on new maps, levels, weapons, skins, items that can be shipped later that fans will enjoy and that might bring in a little additional money to keep the studio afloat. I know in recent years, many gamers have gotten upset about downloadable content because they feel like it should be shipped with the game. But the reality is that it's often not ready. If hooking it up and making it available will destabilize the shipping build, Developers aren't going to do it. They'll get the game out and then they'll ship this additional content later. Another option is to move the artist to another game in the studio, one that is moved into production. This is why it's desirable to have multiple games in different stages of development. Obsidian was already working on Outer Worlds 2 when Avowed shipped. They had a place to land their team. If a studio doesn't have a second game, they can also take on work from another studio, and you see this happening a lot. They essentially get paid to have their people working on someone else's game while they finish up their own. For example, Crystal Dynamics is currently working on a new Tomb Raider and co-developing a reboot of Perfect Dark with the Xbox studio called The Initiative. Crystal did recently announce a layoff, but it was much smaller than it would have been if they weren't working on multiple projects. Some studios will hire contractors to bulk up the team. Since they know they don't need them long term, they only hire them for a few months and then let them go after the project is done. Microsoft used to do this with testing. They were co-located with the team, and it was a really great pipeline for hiring because if you were a great tester, you would get hired. Another popular option is outsourcing.
So let me just stop real quick. I'm actually really curious because like for Bungie specifically, the reason why they had like multiple game directors is because one team would work on an annual expansion while the next team would work. And I don't really know how they work now, but then essentially each team would hopscotch expansions. So for instance, it may be something like Luke Smith's team was working on The Taken King. They ship it, they get it out. Christopher Barrett's team, amongst other people, of course, were working on Rise of Iron. And essentially what they would do is they would hopscotch each other, and they could also rotate, people back and forth between both sides or both teams, artists and whatnot, working on that. So even though like Destiny is just one game, because it's always growing and changing year after year, I feel like you got a lot of stuff there that you can utilize your talent across the board. And I probably even more so if they did Marathon and Destiny, right?
There are large outsourcing companies that will help you with all different aspects of game development. It's pretty amazing. And oftentimes they can operate more cheaply than the game studio does.
Brother.
For example, with Virtuous, you can see a long list of titles they've worked on, including Stellar Blade and Call of Duty.
What?
And there are many more possible partners. This can allow a team to stay smaller and keep their costs down. Hiring generalists isn't...
Can I just say this? You know what team I miss working on Destiny stuff? Y'all remember Vicarious Visions? Dude, what happened to those guys? Dude, Vicarious Visions pumped out so many bangers for Destiny. They were so good. If I remember correctly, they did Warmind, they did Black Armory, they did Season of Opulence. They merged into Blizzard in 2022. Damn, brother. Damn. Let me just say, for Bungie specifically and for Destiny, Blizzard really was like a major asset. Before the launch of Destiny, tons of people at Blizzard actually came to Bungie, sat down and went over everything from loot systems to raid designs, all that jazz. And you see a lot of the inspiration there between from what Destiny pulled from that. You know what I mean?
Another strategy. Of course, there are also many famous one-man band games. Games like Stardew Valley and the recent Schedule 1, where everything was primarily done by one person.
That's
on bigger
crazy.
games, they have more specialists, and specialists can't move around easily. Some studios focus on hiring and training more generalists, which gives the team more flexibility. Studios can use some of the downtime to help improve their team members and invest in their skills. But this requires knowing the team. And this brings me to the second thing I see studios struggling with: managing their people. Look, making a game with your friends is a lot of fun. It is one of the best jobs in the world, but it is still a business and you have to run it that way. And it's a hard business. People don't have to give you money. You're singing for your supper. If they don't like what you make, they can just not buy it. And that means you have to be even better at managing the studio and managing the team. To be blunt, I think a lot of studio leaders have become cowardly and lazy. It's part of why we see layoffs accelerating. Leaders aren't doing the hard things anymore. Look, I get it. I don't like dealing with toxic people. Who does? Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to deal with them. But guess what? The leader has to do it because that's what you're getting paid to do. And if you don't do it, it's not going to get better. This is most true with toxic people because they're abusive. If a leader doesn't curb that abusiveness and do something about it, it's not like they improve. They don't suddenly come to their senses and go, wow, I'm kind of being a jerk. I think I'll stop doing that. It never happens. They just keep being abusive. It only gets worse. There is no easy path. You either deal with the person or you lose your talent. Because your best people, they don't have to put up with the abuse. They can find other jobs, and they will.
The problem is what if it's leadership that's the toxic one? But it's like a situation with Christopher Barrett. I think that situation is just so bizarre to me because it was like there was an investigation. You know, they tried to like move him to different positions, and it was like they were trying to keep him on the team, and it was just so bizarre. And then like Sony was doing their own investigation, and it seemed like Christopher Barrett might have actually stayed, but he wanted to come back as game director. And then that's when they were finally like, no, we're going to let you go. Granted, that entire lawsuit is still playing out. It's if it's leadership, then it's either go over their head or people being abused. How many of you guys work in toxic environments? Some of you probably actually work with, you know, the public. So that's a different level of toxicity. And unfortunately, there's really nothing you could do about it. I used to, HR was very toxic. Chad, remember, HR is there to protect the company, not you. Always get a second opinion. Do I work in a toxic environment? No, it's pretty chill. Dude, I used to work in like blue collar America. And when you're out in the elements and it's 100 some degrees and you're fucking hanging still, people get cantankerous. People are on edge, especially if there's like timelines that are needing to be met, things like that. I will say, like, even though in the construction field, you think like a blue collar guys, construction field, I can't tell you how many, what's the word, prima donnas we had, you know what I mean? Like just people, man, you wouldn't think in that environment, but man, dude, everybody be getting in their feels on a construction site of all places and take things so personally. The other side of things is a lot of drama in construction. Yes, dude. Oh my God. Here was my policy for everything. Keep all personal details to myself. I never talked about my personal life. I never talked about my old lady. I never talked about my kids. I talked about work and only work. It was just work. There was no ever bringing up personal details or disclosing personal details, which might be something like you guys, if you have a work environment that allows you to share your personal life, that's really good. I just, for me, it was just always best to keep personal shit out of everything. Just focus on the job at hand. I've been in blue collar my whole life. The drama was real for everyone. Never give too much information because it will be used against you. Exactly. It will be used against you. It will be used against you, dude. So best just not to disclose ever. They will use that shit against you.
Typically, when you let someone go from a company, you don't talk about why they're being let go. But I have never seen a time when a team revolted after a toxic person or someone who wasn't performing was let go. It didn't happen because they already knew.
Yeah.
Leaders walk around thinking somehow people don't know that this person isn't getting their job done or they're being kind of an asshole in the hallways. It's not a secret because they have to deal with these people.
Look, I see it all the time in my own fire team, the incompetency. I see people on my squad, I'm like, this guy's throwing. And one thing I really try to do is really just cut through it. Find the people that are the weakest link and cut them out. It's nothing personal. It's just we need to be a stronger team. That's it.
Every day. And it's incredibly frustrating to them. In fact, a lot of times managers and leaders wait so long that their best talent is already out interviewing because they've lost faith. If you're already having regular check-ins with people, you're collecting data on how they're doing, you're talking to their peers, you're giving them feedback, you're having performance reviews. If you're doing all of this, you already have all the data you need to manage people who are not performing out. And this is why
there will never be a time where work life and home life is combined. If you start treating people at work like you would in the rest of your life, you'll get emotionally destroyed by business decisions. My thing is this, and this is truly what I believe. The best way to find out who your weakest link on a team is to turn people against each other. My thing is this, is like, if you're overseeing a team and someone is slacking, just casually bring it up by the water cooler. Be like, damn, you know, John was supposed to take care of that. That's probably just a one-off, and just wait. Because at that moment, someone might be like, yeah, John's really just not pulling this weight. You don't say. That's a shame. Have you been having to pick up some of that weight? Oh, you have. That's unfortunate. Then you go to John, and instead of you saying, hey, John, I've noticed you haven't been picking up the weight, you go, John, listen, oh, look, I think you've been doing a great job. But Daryl brought up the fact that you haven't been carrying your own weight around here. And listen, this is good because one of two things are going to occur. Either John is going to get the message in that moment and suddenly realize, hey, I need to pick up my own weight. I need to do more, right? Or B, this is going to cause hyper competitiveness to occur between John and Daryl. And now you keep the strongest one. And then you just sit down with both of them, just be like, listen, I think you're both great, but obviously only one of you is truly great. And then that's how you keep it going. That's how you keep it going. I don't, this is just what my assumption is on how to run things. Who knows? I don't know.
Why I'm saying leaders are lazy, because you already have to do this in order to retain your talent. You need data on how people are doing so that you can recognize them and reward them. If this sounds harsh,
can I say this? Like on a serious note, you know the best way for leadership to know who the fuck is doing their job? Working with them. That's literally the best. How do you know? Work with them. The problem is leadership will put themselves in a position where they never interact or actually work alongside fucking people. The moment you actually get out there and get your hands dirty, suddenly you start to realize who the fuck knows what the fuck they're doing. There's no easier way. And this is any job across the board. Get in there and work with them.
harsh, you probably shouldn't lead, because dealing with people that aren't doing great work is the job. And look, I'm not saying you aren't going to give people a chance. You absolutely should. That's the whole point of the regular feedback. If they've been a great performer and they're suddenly not doing so well, you need to figure out why that is, and you need to try to help them get back on track. You shouldn't toss someone out at the first sign of trouble. It's expensive to hire and train new people, so you should be investing in your team, their skills, and their success. That said, it's also expensive to carry a person that can't do their job, and it can't go on forever. You can't have one person dragging down the entire team because you only have so much runway. And this gets to the third point. You have to manage costs. You need to spend your money wisely. The cost of making a game is not fixed. It can be managed like any other business. The key is to think about what the studio needs first. Obviously, they need a place to work, either office or home. They need good computers, monitors, they need a desk, and most importantly, a comfortable, ergonomic chair. If you're going to have people sitting all day working on art or code or design, they need to not mess up their back. So comfy chairs are important. Of course, if you do have an office, there will need to be...
I love Lori throws that in there. No, that's so important. I would actually go even further than that. Guys, that's not even an ad. I don't even think she's even throwing an ad down. Comfy chairs are important. A standing desk. Probably even a standing desk. I'm telling you guys, sitting in an office chair day after day, you may be sitting in one right now. And you may be like, Ross, I'm fine. I'm good. My back is great. Until it's not. Until one day you reach down to pick something up or put on your fucking underwear and suddenly something happens and you realize I am mortal. To avoid this situation, in my opinion, get a standing desk.
Be whiteboards, meeting spaces, some sort of kitchen, and of course bathrooms. After that, everything else is optional. And oftentimes the optional items don't get used. Every studio has some kind of item like a foosball table or a pinball game sitting unused in the corner because it was too loud and distracted everyone that was trying to do work. In my experience, the key talent doesn't have time or any desire to do anything except make their game, and when they are done for the day, they want to go out and spend time with their family, their friends, or even work on a pet project. This is a little secret about the games industry that I found, that the best engineers and designers were always working on a pet project in their free time.
Yep.
Because doing that work was the core of who they were. It was in the fabric of their being.
Yep.
Same was true of key talent working in big tech companies.
Right in the heart of Silicon Valley, Facebook is cooking up a big new project to expand its Menlo Park campus into what can only be described as a fully fledged town.
The campus was crazy. They had massive amounts of overspending in all sorts of areas. Any kind of food you wanted, ice cream, it was nice. But the worst part about it is that it attracted the exact wrong kind of employee. Why would you want to attract talent that wants to spend the day working in the woodworking shop instead of making Instagram great? The people who had time to spend in the Facebook woodworking shop each day were by definition not key talent. And I can assure you, these people were also the ones complaining about work-life balance and how they were always at work. After providing what is needed for getting the game done, then you have things like health insurance, vacation time, things that are must-haves but also can be scaled based on your budget and the culture you want to create in the studio.
One of the most higher up people in the offices are the first things you see when you walk in.
It kind of cements home the overall theme where it's like, hey, it's in Chicago, not exactly the hotbed of game development these days. It's just some good old-fashioned Midwestern humility going on down there. It's focused, it's not glitzy, it's not glamorous, but they love their past and they're good at what they do.
Games have always been a challenge because even when you do everything right, you can still fail. Even when your heart's in the right place, you listen to the customer and you actually make something gamers want to play, you can still lose. Because entertainment is by definition risky. Okay, it's not like food, it's not like heating oil. People don't have to have it. They can simply choose to take their money and spend it on a different game or some other form of entertainment.
And at the end of the day, it's discretionary spending too. Hard times really come, like major hard times. No one's going to be thinking about what video game they're going to be playing. That's not going to be on their mind. It's discretionary. And on top of that, like, it's also not personal. Entertainment, just like if you think this stream is shit, dude, that's how you feel. That's how you feel. You know what I mean? Just like if one of us thinks Domestic Girlfriend is a terrible show when objectively it's a fantastic anime. Everyone has different opinions. And if the masses feel a certain way about something, then it is what it is. And therefore that product will not make any money.
Game leaders need to get back to paying attention to the details, to making great games that they can afford to make, building trust with their team by rewarding and protecting their best people, and by doing the hard things, making the tough choices.
Yeah.
Very well protected as an employee. So when the studio goes down, the one that's shafted is the owner, right? So I didn't want to burden them with it. They would always be taken care of. It was me that my life would have been over.
Over time, Sven did come out and tell us that this was basically the do or die project, because we had a meeting about it with the whole company, and we were told that this needed to be it, basically, or it was the doors closed.
It used to be that studios would do everything possible to avoid layoffs. They would cut costs, they would be very careful about managing their projects, because it was only as a last resort that they would do that. And sometimes it worked. They could let people go and then hire them back once they had more financing, once they signed another game. But lately, that's not what's happening. And it really needs to change because it's not sustainable. I'm hoping that after seeing what's been happening over the last few years, that studios are going to get it together and that we're going to reverse this trend, and that this will no longer be the way that games are made.
I keep on seeing the same mistakes over and over and over, and it's always the quarterly profits. The only thing that matters is the numbers, and then you fire everybody, and then like next year you're going to see, shit, I'm out of developers, and you're going to start hiring people again, and then you do acquisitions, and then you put them in the same loop again, and it's just been broken and broken and broken. You don't have to. You just can make reserves, slow down a little bit, slow down on the greed, be resilient, take care of the people, don't lose the institutional knowledge that's been built up in all of those people that you lose every single time, so that you have to go through the same cycle over and over and over.
Look, I mean, all this stuff probably is like common sense to most of you, but man, you'll see it leading into quarterly calls or quarterly earnings and stuff like that, where big corporations will go through and slash their workforce down. What's so fucked up is that actually results in their share price, or the share price going up. But the thing is they find themselves in a jam long term because good talents will find somewhere else or even start their own thing. And I think that the first layoff, I'm not talking about the second wave after Marathon was delayed and all that stuff. Like, I'm talking about the first wave, the one that hit like Salvatore and others. That was Bungie playing or pulling that same corporate card, because that was key talent. It wasn't like they were getting rid of people that didn't fit in with the team or teams, or it wasn't people that couldn't deliver fantastic products. That's because there's a huge track record of fantastic product being delivered by those people. That's for real talent. And they gone. This continued on even last year after Final Shape, and it's they lost some incredible talent after that as well. If you can get a couple of $1 million as a bonus for laying people off, the decision isn't a hard one to make. Dude, it reminds me, y'all know the Office episode where Michael has to lay off someone, and then he gets the payout for laying off someone. And like he feels so bad. Like he does like a party, and like he feels so fucking guilty about it. He does like a party for the whole, and then it finally admits that he got paid out a certain amount of money for laying off someone. Yeah, it's fucked up that it works like that. I don't even know why it would even work that way. Like, again, man, key people, dude. Your company is worthless without them. I mean, this is for everyone. This is literally every company. How can you get the job done without key fucking people? Everyone is replaceable. Companies will want you to believe everyone is replaceable, without a doubt. They want you to believe everyone is replaceable. I can tell you firsthand, there are people in certain positions that they literally are irreplaceable. And if they left, it would put companies in a major bind. And some of those key people they're so good at what they do. A lot of them could actually go out and start their own businesses and do their own thing. And maybe even some of them tried for whatever reasons, didn't work out. But companies would love for you to feel like you're replaceable. And they'll probably repeat that mantra, right? You're just a number to a company. I would definitely say do whatever you can to make yourself as irreplaceable as possible. That was always in previous jobs I had was what are skill sets that I can acquire that makes me very difficult to replace, and therefore I now have leverage. And so I would say find whatever those skill sets are, and hopefully if you have a good boss or bosses or whoever, they'll recognize that once you've acquired it. Slap that like button like your mama told you right.